Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to make a DYI version of this Exotac Ripspool made in the US. It's an excellent product, machined aluminum. It's wrapped in duct tape. It has some thread for sewing. It has a removable end cap. Show you right here. Holds a needle. You can also throw a safety pin in there. There's room. Small amount of room in there, a lot of tape, rubber O-ring, sits in there like that. And it's just a great product. It's about $32, which isn't unreasonable for the quality of this. But the problem is, a lot of times you're going to want 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these, so you're not constantly shifting them around from, say, your backpack to your hunting equipment. It's just nice to have more than one, but that could get pretty pricey. So I decided to come up with a way to make something similar, more in the theme of it, but I think it has some advantages. So let's start talking about that and how to make one. What you're going to need for this project is a piece of PVC pipe, 2 end caps. That's 3/4 inch PVC pipe. Of course, 3/4 inch caps. You're going to need the duct tape of your choice or repair tape of your choice. Some sewing bobbins. I got these at Walmart. You're going to need some sandpaper, a hacksaw blade, or a blade similar, but a hacksaw blade works great. If you have a Dremel tool, you're going to want your barrel sander and a cutting disc. And that's pretty much all you're going to need for this project. A piece of sandpaper to touch up some spots when you make some cuts. And that's about it. There's not a lot to it. So let me clear this out of the way. So there's only 2 measurements that you need to remember in this entire project. One is the length of the pipe, which is 3 1/4. And that's based on the tape, which you'll see later why and how that makes sense. And then 3/8 of an inch, which is what's going to be the depth of a small groove that you cut. There it is right there. Both in the tube and in your end cap. And you'll understand why we do that down the road here as we assemble it. So what I did was, again, I just cut this off a piece of bigger pipe. Don't have to buy a whole bunch of it. I bought this length. I forget what the overall length was. I think it was maybe 2.5, 3 feet. And I just cut 3 1/4 inch piece off of there. I used a hacksaw. Do this outside. It makes a really fine dust. You want to maybe wear some gloves and a respirator, or at least a mask, because the dust is really fine and it's kind of nasty. Once you have cut your pipe, all you're going to do is, using your Dremel tool, you're going to make this opening a little bigger. And I'll explain to you why in a moment. If you don't have a Dremel tool, you could just use a piece of dowel, or I used a piece of PEX I had laying around, wrap some sandpaper on it, and work that in and out until I got the diameter I wanted. And what's the diameter that we want? Well, what we want is this bobbin, which is going to be loaded with our thread, any kind of thread of your choice. I'll show you what I have in the finished one that I made. You want it to be able to slide down into the tube from either end. And that's all we're after. If it's a little coarse inside when you're done sanding, that's great, because it actually works better if the bobbin doesn't just fall right out. A little bit of resistance actually helps the project later on. All right, so we've cut our PVC pipe to 3 1/4 inches length. We've put our, there it is, our 3/8 of an inch groove or cut. And that's pretty much all the cutting we're going to need to do for this whole project. This is super quick and simple project. So we have our end caps. All right, they just slide on as so. Then we would take our tape and simply start wrapping the tape around. And you get quite a bit on there. Yep, so let's switch over to the finished product that I made so you could see what the end results are. So what you end up with when you're done wrapping it is the tape, and I used the caps as a reference to keep it straight. So I just put the caps on, started the tape, wrapped it around and around until I got to a depth that I liked. And it's nice is it also creates a type of seal along the edge. So what about these bobbins and thread? Why do we use those? Well, I'll show you why. Now we can store our threads inside our tube. But the great thing is there's also enough room in this version that I make that you could put some cement, you could put a few safety pins. I have reading glasses, so in a situation if I having trouble, I can use this needle threader. And I have a bunch, it holds a bunch of room in there because of the size of the diameter of the bobbins when they're stacked. I also found that I could put a few pieces of glue stick in there, craft glue. And then I have a few types of thread on my bobbins. And all I did with the thread these is I took a little dowel, fit it into the center of the bobbin, put it on my drill, and just pulled the thread off of the spools that I had that held it. So I have some artificial sinew, some waxed thread, some black braided thread that I use for leather sewing. I have a lacing needle, which is good with the artificial sinew. I have 2 needles for doing leather work, some sewing needles. Yeah, it's pretty much up to your imagination. And I'll reassemble it so you could see how this all works. So I start with one, and like I said, it's a little bit coarse, so they stay in there nicely. Slide it down, slide that one down. Now, this is why we made those grooves. So once you have your thread, you can simply line it up with that groove, pop it in there, take your other one, your end cap, line them up, and if your holes, when they slide together, instead of having a groove, you have a hole, and now you have a dispenser. So you don't have the thread flying out all over the place when you're trying to work with it. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah. That you might have to adjust a little bit, making a little rounder on the end with some sandpaper. But for the most part, if you use a cutting disc, it has a kind of round edge on there, so it'll do a pretty good job for you right off the bat. So then you have your thimbles in there, and now you could see how much room is in there, even with all that thread. I drop my needles in. I mean, you could fit a lot of stuff in here, which the Ripspool's awesome. You get a lot of tape, but you really don't have any storage other than that one needle. And not every needle's perfect for every job. Depending on the type of thread you're using, the thickness of the thread, the material you're trying to work with. And we just pop all these in there. Put my little needle threader in there. my glue sticks. Those you could just heat with a match, and they work great. Pop my crazy glue in there, and that's how that would work. All right. So I think it's a great project. It's super simple. It gives you a great finished product. As you can see, the tape, you have quite a bit of tape on there. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this. Again, Exotac makes beautiful products, but it could get pricey if you need more than one, and this is what I came up with after using the Ripspool. So get out there, give it a try, and let me know what you think. Thanks so much.